Hey, how are you? Sorry.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I've got on mute.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
How are you guys?
Yes, Claude, I decided to join this one.
That's
Cycling.
good. Go ahead.
Okay, and where I am in England at the moment, it's quite hilly. So I'm going to choose a steep hill on a non-busy road, which is actually quite easy to do. So
Okay.
I've got a steep hill and I'm trying to get these students to improve their strength by hill climbing. So I'm aware that my students normally live in Bahamas and it's flat and they do not do hills very much. So I'm taking my students to these hills, and the equipment you need here, we need the bicycle. I'm looking at the cadence. So I'm wanting them to have cadence to be able to measure, and they need to make sure they've got water with them. And that's more that they're used to drinking water. I don't think they're going to get that hot here. Okay, so the objective is to improve the strength by hill climbing. My students are my 12 to 14-year-olds. And can you still see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
So we're going to do a warm-up by cycling from their place where they're staying to the hill. And they're going to use a high cadence just to get themselves warm. And while we're going, I want them to start practicing changing gears before standing up so that they don't sort of damage their gears. And also to anticipate hills. They're not very good at thinking about the hill, and then they start going up the hill and have to change very rapidly. They need to anticipate what's happening. The other thing that I'm wanting them to do is have a relaxed upper body and apply constant pedal pressure. So every time we rotate, I want a constant pedal pressure. And then because they're not used to hills, the hill that I've got in mind has got one or two very steep bits in it. Most of it's is a good hill for climbing, but it has got a high bit. And if they do S turns on the hill, it reduces their slope without them having to slow down. So it's a little trick that they need. I think it's worth them learning in case we end up with hills, because you can't always adjust the hill to suit the cyclist. So once we're warmed up, we're going to ascend the hill seated down with a big front gear. And I'm hoping they can do that with a cadence of about 50 to 55. And again, relaxing this upper body. Then once they get to the top of their hill, I want them to cruise down the hill. And the hill is probably just over half a mile long. Cruise down the hill, and then I want them to climb up the hill, this time in an easy gear with a high cadence. So the RPE should be about 4, and then cruise down the hill again. And then I want them to reclimb their hill seated in an easy gear. And then the final one, which is the one that's really going to get their RPE higher, is I want them to rotate between standing up and sitting down as they go up their hill. Okay, the coach behavior, because we're going to have 2 coaches there, one can stay at the bottom of the hill to remind the athletes what they're going to do every time they ascend the hill. And they're also looking out for cars. And the other athlete stays at the top of the hill, also on car patrol, but they can also monitor the kid or the students as they come up the hill. And then after our final descent, we're going to cycle back to where we came from with a high cadence so we can remove some of the lactic acid that we might have built up.
Okay, very good.
You're looking very confused then.
What do you think about this session?
Too complicated.
Well, I didn't think so, because it's sort of similar to what I wrote for my cycling practice session as well. So I understand what you're trying to achieve, because I also wrote a strength one in terms of pushing up the hill and then the recovery. Mine sort of progresses through zones on each repeat, ascending and then coming back down.
Could you present your Sasha so that we can see both of them?
Compare them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm in Jamaica, and we do have a fair amount of hills. So the hill I chose, my athlete is my recreational. It's the athlete that I chose in the beginning. She's a recreational sprint tri athlete. So her goal is a sprint tri, and we're in pre-season. So all of my sessions are geared towards that. And I wrote in a strength session on a hill that's about a 3 to 5% grade. It's not terribly steep, but enough of a challenge. So we start on a relative flat. So for my warm-up, I had her doing 20 minutes in a zone, building to a zone 2, RPE 2 level on the bike, and then progressing to a main set that was really 3 sets of 10 minutes each. It'll be a little bit longer than the half an hour with the recovery in between. So the first set would be at zone 3, all of them being ridden in a big gear. So the first one would be a zone 3 RPE of about 5 to the top of the hill, and then a recovery back down. Then the next set would be a zone 4 at an RPE of about 6 to 7. And then the last set would be a zone 5A RPE of 8, where we would, and then recovery. So there was a progression on each set, pushing harder. It would be in big gear, but they have control over the cadence to get to that heart rate zone, and RPE. And then my cool down was a 10-minute zone 1 easy spin out at the end. In terms of coach's behavior, it was to set the parameters for the heart rate zones, but to allow the athlete the autonomy to find the cadence that would bring them to that exertion level. And the feedback would be to monitor the heart rate zones and have a check-in along the way throughout the work effort. So that was my cycling progression, my cycling workout.
I always forget to unmute myself, but I need to mute myself because it is really noisy here.
we couldn't hear you.
I know. So this is really interesting. On both cases, you will both ask for feedback on measurements, assuming that the athlete has equipment. So Sylvia, what would you do if they do not have a cadence monitor? How can they substitute that? What can they do? That would be like really easy.
They can just count.
Yes.
If they know when they're counting, they can count, provided they don't end up out of breath. So you can count, and so you can just keep a certain pace as you count. Okay. So for example, if the coach were to tell them start and stop on the 0 and the 15, you can count the number of pedals on 15 seconds. You know, yes. If the coach has a chronometer, and the people count their number of strokes, and then you just multiply by 4 and you have the RPM. Okay. So that's an alternative, especially in development. You will always find people that do not have so much equipment, and we still need to make do. Okay, so somebody doesn't bring their cadence monitor, this is a good substitute. No, I agree.
Yeah. Sasha, how would you substitute if they do not have a heart rate monitor? I know those are quite easy to have, but it happens.
It's the rate of perceived exertion is really what I was working with. So in terms of, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can.
The rate of perceived exertion. So can they speak, and the level of breathlessness, I guess, along the way, is how I would would determine the exertion based on without a heart rate monitor.
Okay, so I have another question. You told us that there was going to be 3 times 10-minute sets, right? Sasha, on the uphill?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I just want to make sure that I understood. It was 3 times 10 minutes, right?
10 minutes. That's why at the beginning I said it was going to be a little bit longer with the recoveries down.
Yeah.
But it's 3 times 10 minutes of work with the recovery, which would be about 5 minutes, I guess, with the rolling back down.
Okay. So that is actually not a problem. What I think that you need to review, Sylvia, what do you think about 10 minutes on zone 5 for a recreational athlete?
I think it's too much.
Yes.
I think they're going to be exhausted if they're not used to hills.
And I want you guys to review your tables, because on zone 5A, we are way over aerobic work. So you are not supposed to be able to keep that intensity if it really is zone 5.
In zone 5, okay.
Yes, in zone 5, you will be able to be maximum 2 minutes, maximum. Okay? So if somebody is doing 10 minutes, they are not on zone 5. Exactly.
Okay.
They might be feeling it, okay? They might be feeling, because it's a recreational athlete, they might be feeling it and hating the coach, but they are not on zone 5, because on zone 5, you need to be under 2 minutes. So that's only, it's really interesting that you do it, and it's important to review those details. That's why the table is, the small guide is there, just to check, because it is very confusing, and it's very confusing always. It doesn't stop being confusing ever. Okay, so just always, when you are planning a set, review that you are actually doing the work on the intensity that you are planning or that you are requiring. Okay. So this is a really good work. I just wouldn't do it on the zone 5. So what could happen is that if you do the 3 repeats of 10 minutes on uphill on the zone 3, the last repeat will have an RPE of 8, but it will not be a zone 5. Okay, so that could happen, especially if it's a recreational athlete that is not so familiar with hills. 10 minutes doing uphill work is not so easy, and they will really feel it. So
I think that's what I was going for a higher RPE and then tune in the zone, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's not really the zone.
I'm looking for the exertion to be at that point, a level of 8. So I have to look at that again.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting point that's being raised here, and there's a podcast that talks a lot about this, because when you are doing FTP testing, it's supposed to be the intensity that you can hold for an hour, which really? Yes. So, for example, if you were going to do 2 minutes at FTP, it should be extremely easy, okay? But to hold your FTP for an hour is really hard. So your rate of perceived exertion will be completely different if you do, for example, 10 times 2 minutes at FTP than if you do 2 times 10 minutes at FTP. The RPE will be completely different. So there you need to play a little bit with if they do stay in the zone because the way you plan the workout, but the RPE will most assuredly change somewhat. Okay? So just make sure that you plan the workouts accordingly and that you understand which zone you are working, mostly because in different zones you will have different effects on the body. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Good. Yes. So let's go with swimming, all right? Sasha, do you want to present your swimming, or Sylvia?
I can start with swimming. It's my least, I feel least comfortable about it.
Okay,
so
let's go for
gone
swimming.
to the only swimming pool near me, which is 25 meters.
Okay.
And we're going to practice, or the objective is to doing lengthening strokes.
Okay.
So we're trying to achieve a long, smooth stroke.
Okay.
And I'm going to give them a long session of is just under 2,000 meters. But
Okay.
I'm really concentrating on lengthening strokes. So they're going to start with a warm-up of 250 meters, which is 10 lengths of a RPE of 2 to 3. And what I want them to do is, the whole aim of this is that the longer strokes allow you to conserve energy, so you can swim faster and longer. And you need to stretch the lead arm out as far in front as possible, keeping your head stable but rolling your shoulders so you can get extra length. And you need to stretch and try and glide. So that's their aim as they're setting off. Then the main set, after we've had our warm-up, I want them to do a 100-meter crawl, counting the strokes per length. So they need to count the number of strokes they do on their way up the pool, and then they can swim on the way back. So just a relaxed swim on the way back. So we then know how many strokes they're doing on 25 meters. Then I want them to do 6 times 50 meters, counting the strokes on the way up and relaxed on the way back, but every leg they need to have fewer strokes. So they've got to keep pushing themselves so that we get fewer strokes as we're going through these repeats. And I expect them to have an RPE of about 2 to 3, maybe a little bit more than 3. After that, I want them to do 2 times 250 meters, crawl, but again, concentrating very much on stretching. So it's not so much for speed, but just for the stretch with an RPE of 3. And then finally, I want them to do 8 50-meter crawls, sprinting up and counting the strokes on the return. And then they need to rest for 15 seconds in between each of the repeats. And then at the end, I want them to do 250 meters of a cool down. And what the coaches are doing, they're going to be there for safety, but they're also there to write down the number of strokes that the students do, so that nobody forgets what they're doing, and also to remind them in between each set what they're going to be doing next. And the only gear we needed was swimming gear.
Okay, okay, very good. Sasha, what did you do for swimming?
I did an endurance set for swimming, with the assumption that you know, my athlete is fairly comfortable in the water, but still needs some form check. But this is really an endurance set, requiring the usual swim equipment, goggles, that sort of thing. I put paddles in there for the warm up as sort of a form check. So my warm up is 3 rounds of, I'm in a 25-meter pool, which is what's available right now. 3 rounds of 200 meters at an RPE of 1. I find that RPE from me is easier to work with in the pool than checking in with a watch for heart rate percentage. Yeah. So I did it based on RPEs. So 3 rounds of 200 meters at an RPE of 1. Using the paddles for the last set to sort of reinforce the catch. But the athlete can choose between breaststroke and front crawl for the warm up. It's really just a warm up set. The main set is all front crawl, 2 rounds, starting with 2 rounds of 150 meters at an RPE of 4. And then 3 rounds of 100 meters at an RPE of 5, which gives you 600-meter main set. And focusing on the feedback being form checks in terms of head positioning, catch, pull, hip placement in the water. This was really more of an endurance set. And then for cool down, 200 meters at an RPE of 1, any stroke that the athlete chooses. So that was the focus really on feedback of form and checking in with the athlete for RPE in the interval, the rest period between the sets. There's a 5-second rest between the rounds.
Okay, so Sasha, a question for you. Have you swum in open water, or have you coached anyone that wants to swim in open water?
I have done swimming in open water. I have not coached anyone. I haven't done any coaching.
Okay.
No.
Are you familiar with the difference between stroke rate in the pool and in the open water?
I think it's faster in the open water because you are pulling to against current and all these things. So yes, the stroke rate in open water I find is higher for me. I relearned to swim like a year and a half ago from the time I was 5. So swimming is not my strong point.
Okay.
Same here.
Same with Silvia. Okay. So this is very important to take into account. In the pool, usually you will want to motivate the athletes to have a longer stroke, but triathletes need to have a faster stroke. So a good piece of investigation that you can do is ask Google, what kind of stroke rate do 800 or 1500 meters swimmers have? And what kind of stroke rate do triathletes or open water swimmer have? And you'll see that the difference is enormous. So Silvia, in terms of correcting swimmer and having people be comfortable in the water, it is really good to have them glide and all of that. But if you want to have a faster swimming in open water, the gliding is not really a good strategy because of the resistance of the water.
Okay.
Okay, so
that's good to know.
yeah, that's really important. So that's something that we need to take into account. Annika, you were asking us on the chat that you were going to present, but I have you for a different time. Let me see.
What time should I be at? I think I'm thinking I mixed up the times.
Yes, possibly. Let me see. Annika, I have you at 11.
Oh, so I'm an hour early.
You're early, but you know, if you want to, I think that yes, you could present it. So I thought that you were just here to see how the class was going, which is something that happened on last week, and it's not a problem. But
I sat in last week.
We were not ignoring.
But I don't want to keep them longer than they wanted to.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to keep the ladies longer than they they were supposed to stay.
So let's just wrap up the swimming and we can work on the running with all of us, and then we see if we can finish with you today or just okay. So because I do need to finish on time, all the lessons need to finish on time. So we were talking about so how would you handle a set, Silvia, that took into account the stroke rate?
Now we need to count the number of strokes as we go up the pool. So
that
in a way similar
for stroke length, but stroke rate?
The stroke
rate, the speed of the stroke.
You're going to have to count, aren't you? So like the 15 seconds.
You might want to add the strokes to the time, because what happens if you glide too much, usually the time goes up.
Yes.
So if you start doing faster strokes, then you should be able to be swimming faster, not just do faster strokes and still swim slow. Yeah.
Okay, so are they changing their stroke at all, or they're just doing it faster?
They change it. Usually,
how are they changing it?
Well, for example, in open water, in the pool, you go and you glide, right?
Yes.
In open water, you go from one point of anchor to another point of anchor really fast. There's not this long gliding motion. You just go fast, 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 fast. Usually in open water also, the arms will be a little bit higher, especially if there are any waves.
Okay.
And the other main difference with open water is that you will need to do some sighting at some points. So you are swimming and you look up and go back to swimming and look up and go back to swimming without losing time, just watching.
Is that when would you do like breathe every 3 strokes, breathe every 5? Does that help increase stroke rates or no?
It doesn't really help increase. So an exercise that helps a lot to increase stroke rate is first use the paddles and then no paddles, or put together 2 similar swimmers and one would use fists and the other would use the open palm, and the one with the fist needs to keep up with the other one. So those are some kind of games that you can have. And then if you organize, for example, relays, one will be with the fist, the other with open, and the next relay is the other way around, and they just need to try and keep up, and that will help them increase a lot their stroke rate. So, but that's really interesting. The other thing that you need to take into account, Sylvia, is if you are doing 80 times 50 meters or 25 meters sprint, you need a little bit more rest.
Okay.
What do you guys think should be the rest for a 25-meter effort or a 50-meter sprint effort?
Probably about 10, 15 seconds.
No, what will happen by the 3rd or the 4th sprint?
They're anaerobic.
They're going slow because they're too tired. I think you should guys try it, okay? If you want to try it, try 8 times 50 meters going really fast and only resting 10 or 15 seconds and see what happens to your times. So if you want the person to keep the speed, they will need to have more recovery. Usually it's for a 50 meter, it would be the same time that they take to swim the 50 meter or twice the time that they take to swim the 50 meters. Okay, if they are sprinting, okay, if they're just swimming fast, it's a different type of set. But if you want them to sprint, then you want them to keep the same speed on the 1st than on the 8th. And for that, you need a lot of rest time.
So if it takes, so however long it takes them to go up to do the 50, they then rest for that same time.
Yeah, so that they can keep on doing the same time on the way back. Try it. Just go and play with it and see what happens to the times if you only give them 10 seconds or if you do give them the whole minute.
I need a swimming pool first.
Yeah, well, you can do it on the track and it will be the same thing.
They're banned.
If you get them to run, let's say 200 meters, it will be the same thing.
Okay.
Just give them 10 seconds rest and see if they can keep the same pace on the first one and the last one, or give them a 200-meter easy jog and see if they can keep their time. And yeah, that will be very enlightening. Okay, so good. Now let's present Annika's running. Are you okay with that? I know, Sasha, that you need to leave at 11 sharp. Yes. Don't worry. Don't worry, don't worry. We're doing well. And you see, the main idea is not really that the sport is so important. The main idea is to understand what we are doing with the sets, with the recovery, with the zones. Just like really reflect on that right now until you are more familiar with all the terms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, have you found this useful?
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So Annika, go for the run.
Okay, so my run session is going to take place on the track at the National Stadium. Equipment, regular running shoes, hydration fluids. The coaches will have a timer, place cones on the track, and a whistle. Well, my athlete was a 19-year-old training 2 do a triathlon in 3 months, I think it was. I can't remember.
Okay.
Right? So for the warm-up, they do a 10, but she's training with a youth team.
Okay.
The warm-up will be 10 minutes easy jog in zone 2, 5 minutes dynamic stretches,
Okay.
followed by 5 minutes of just some strides for 200 to 300 meters in about zone 3. The key points for the workout will be to maintain proper posture, since she has issues with dropping her torso during runs, keeping her hips forward and controlling her breathing. So she's going to pay attention to her breathing. So the main set is going to be done in zone 4 with the set. It goes like this. It's something like a fartlek. They're running in a group. So they're going to be practicing running in groups. They're going to run in zone 4, 7 out of 10 RPE on the straights. And they run in zone 2, 4 out of 10 RPE on the bends for 10 minutes. The leader in the group changes every 400 meters. So person from the back will reach to the front and lead that 400 meter, right? And they're gonna rest for 2 minutes and repeat just once. So it'll be 2 sets. The coach will give instructions at the beginning, time, of course, keep time, observe and motivate every time the lap changes, since, you know, it's a sort of a mental thing where the speed changes on the bends and the straight, but also every 400 meters because there's a different runner. So it will motivate the person at the back to keep up with the group. And the cool down is going to be 5 minutes easy jog. Yeah, and that's it.
So what do you guys think about it, Sasha or Sylvia?
Sorry, the main one, how much are we doing in zone 4? How far
How
are we
many?
going? Yes.
It will be 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes of running. 2 sets of that, rest and 2 minutes in between.
Okay.
I think the warm-up's very long compared to the main set.
Warm up.
But
the main
But
set
warm up is like 20 minutes.
and with the main set, the warm-up is 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the main set we've now got.
The main set will be like 24, 25 minutes or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is in zone 4, so I think usually it's important if you're going to have a very intense workout to have a really long warm-up. So
Right.
I think that's correct. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the focus is on form, right? So you don't really want them to be that zone 4 and focused on the form. Then I think you need the long warm up, particularly when it's warm outside.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me have a question for the 3 of you for this set. So what I have noticed in the sets that you have presented is that the coach will be always directing the workout, okay?
Yeah.
But we have COVID and we're not allowed to be everybody in the same place. So the coach today is coaching from home. How can you help the athlete to be aware of their form without the coach telling them you are hunching or you are doing something wrong? And that's the same for cycling, swimming, and whatever. What if you want to have independent athletes that went out to do their workout, and so that they will be aware of their form during the workout without having a coach telling them all the time, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Like you don't want the mom there. Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you do?
What I do is I use, I call it cues, like a checklist to go through. Within the 10 minutes, there'll be a timer of like 2 minutes. And every 2 minutes it will beep and I go through a checklist in my mind. Is my torso up straight? Is my hips forward? How's my stride? So maybe they could use that.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you have any other ideas, Sylvia or Sasha?
No, that's really what I do too. I have them watch a video of themselves doing the run with proper form, and then they watch that before they go out, and then intermittently, like every so many meters, they every 100 meters they check in on the head position, and then the next check in on how far they're leaning forward. I think it's having the video of the picture in their head before they go out and what they're looking for helps too.
Okay,
I
so
think it's
having
good.
cues
I
and
think
having
a
video,
checklist.
good.
I haven't done anything, but I think a checklist is a good idea, provided you start off by saying today these are the things you're going to be checking,
Okay.
so that they know that. Don't make them too many.
No.
So you've got 3 or 4, and you then keep checking those 3 or 4. Because if it's too many, they'll forget them.
Yeah.
Okay. So something that I also like to do with the athletes is have them, for example, do exactly what they are doing wrong. So if they're hunching, have them run like this for a little while and then stand up, so that they will start feeling the difference between one thing and the other. Okay, so for example, bending instead of leaning, and then leaning, hunching and then being straight, looking down and then looking forward, just so that they will start to become familiar with how it feels when you're doing it wrong and how it feels when you're doing it right. So here from just this talk, we have 3 really good tools, right? Cues, like a video. And the checklist that could be with the cues, a short checklist. And then I call them contrasts, to just do the opposite that you want to do and then come back to what you actually want to do. But those are really good strategies. Sylvia and Sasha, what do you have for running?
I had sorry.
Off you go, Sasha.
Okay, I had an interval run, really, because we're still in preseason, sort of working on monitoring the form again, similar to Annika. I started up with a warm-up, a 10-minute zone 1 easy run, followed by a series of drills. So 2 sets each of 50 meters, high knees, A skips, B skips, and cariokas. Prior to and this is all done on a track. Then progressing into a main set that is 10 minutes, 10 rounds of 2 minutes in zone 2, with a 1 minute zone 1 easy run between each zone 2 interval. Focusing on the form again, the form check-in during each set, and then a zone 1 10-minute cool down. So it was intended to keep it simple, but focus on the form and maintaining the zone 2 intensity, everything aerobic.
Okay, Sylvia.
I took them back to my hill.
Okay, good.
Different hill.
The coach loves hills.
Well, it's because I spend the whole year in Bahamas and I have no hills, and at the moment I've got all the hills in the world.
And if there are rivers, you put them to swim against the current.
So I'm going to take them to my hill. I would like them to have a heart rate monitor and a watch. And the objective is to pace themselves when they're running up the hill. Because I did quite a bit of research, and a lot of people run too fast up hills. So I want them to think about their breathing so that they don't exhaust themselves getting up the hill. Okay. So we're going to a warm up. We're going to jog to the beginning of the hill, which is actually down an undulating path. So there's 1 or 2 little ascents and descents. So that's the initial warm up, which will take them about 10 minutes to get to the hill. Then I have a flat piece of road, and I want them to run along the flat with an RPE of 3, listening to their breathing and making a mental note of what their heart rate is. So it would help if they had a heart rate monitor, but if not, they can just concentrate on their breathing. what we're then going to do is run up the hill for 4 minutes with an RPE of 3 or 4, and then jog back down. And I'm wanting them to do this 4 times up the hill, every time for 4 minutes. Now, after 4 minutes, I want one coach to go ahead and blow a whistle so they can actually mark where they are after the 4 minutes. So they know how far up the hill they've got. They can just scratch a mark into the mud. So next time they come up, they can see whether they've gone further or at the same, reached further or at the same pace. And the concentration is trying to keep that same pace. So the jogging down, which would be an RPE of about 1 or 2, they can relax, and then they jog back up again. But they're trying to keep the same pace as they're going up the hill rather than sprinting up the hill. So, and then at the end of that, they were then jogging back along the flat part of the path and then walking up the last 100 meters to where I'm actually staying. I'm not going to make them run up the last hill. And the coaches, I wanted one to go up to the front and just watch what they're doing, and also monitoring their breathing as they're getting towards the top of their hill. And they're also responsible for blowing the whistle after 4 minutes. So the athletes don't have to think about their time. They're just given the time, and that's when they turn around, mark the ground and turn around, and then jog back down the hill. I've made it complicated.
That's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
Well, once you've got to the hill, all you're doing is you're running up the hill, and the whistle will tell you when to run back down.
Want to run back, yeah. Okay.
Comments? Don't take them to a hill.
I actually like hills, but undulating hills, it seems like we're going up the hill most of the time.
But this is
sounds
on,
like a
this
good
is on
session. It sounds
track
like a hard
rather than,
session.
this is track rather than open road. So it's up through woods and it's beautiful.
Oh, well, even better. It sounds
I'll
hard, but
give
it
you a
sounds like
challenge.
a good session, a well thought out session. Claudia, your mic is on mute.
Sorry. I would like to compare both sets because they are similar, okay? Both types of sets, and I find that they have like the similar small issue on timing zone. So on the one side, I feel like Sasha is too easy. No, possibly for zone 2 workouts, you might want to do continuous work or longer sets.
Mm-hmm.
And for Sylvia, it's too hard. So it's kind of difficult to hold 4 minutes on zone 4 on an uphill. And on the other hand, it's too easy to hold 2 minutes on zone 2 on a flat. So if Sylvia would do Sasha's work with her intensity, it would be perfect. So the repeats on 2 minutes on the uphill. And if Sasha would do the repeats on the 4 minutes on the flat, you guys would be perfect coaches. So just always when you plan these sets, be aware of the, again, intensity, recovery, timing zone. All right, that's really important. And a way to, let me see if I have it here.
I think it's a lot about the environment too, because on the charts, it says zone 4, 30 to 60 minutes aerobic oxidative. But then you're saying if it's on a hill, it will be hard to stay in zone 4. So I understand. You have to also take into account where the training is being done.
Yes, and
Yeah.
let me share my, I think I opened it, but I don't see it. Yeah, here, zones. Okay, so we're here. So
Yeah.
this is really interesting. If you're going to be on zone 4, which is very hard, you really want to spend time on it, but like shorter times on it. So for example, if I am in this part of the zone 4, which that would be the zone 3, then I could handle like 20 minutes, an hour, something like that. But if I am here, I will need to have shorter repeats with larger breaks, okay? And then if I am here on the zone 2, then I really need to do like a longer work with shorter recovery time.
Okay.
Okay, because if not, there will be no stress on the athlete and then they will not be able to improve. Is that good? Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so how did you feel about the way that this session went? What did you find useful?
I have a clear understanding of when you're working through the zones to not just look at zone. It's looking at all the other aspects in terms of the terrain, in terms of your
Okay.
desired output, and with the swimming being specific to triathlon.
Yes, that's important.
Okay,
you know,
very good.
stroke rate was really an important point for me. You know, when you're particularly coming from my background, I'm relearning to swim, and your coach is telling you to glide out and, you know, high elbows, and that doesn't really translate so well to competing in triathlon. That it does take a little bit of a mind shift to do that.
I think
but
it would
also
be helpful for if we were told what things were specific more to triathlons rather than just for running or swimming or cycling.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Because we don't know.
Yes, we can investigate.
So that could be something which would be helpful if we had a session where we discussed what skills were particular.
Okay.
the triathlon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What else? How could you improve this session?
I thought this was really helpful, because the minute you explained the first time about the zones, I mean, I knew that I knew my run was going to be off based on the feedback from my
so it's useful for everything. Yeah, good. Were you expecting a session like this?
No.
I was, because I came and watched yours the other day.
Okay, so you watch Carol, so now you knew what to expect, right? That's cheating.
Yes, I cheated.
No. No, that's good. So where I want to try to call you a little bit on your attention for just this is the following. This type of interaction, you were able to interact and you were able to reflect and you were able to give your opinion on what was going on, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You would expect to do the same thing with your athletes. So this is one thing that we need to practice, because in general, you are doing things really well, but you are like dictating the workout. On the one side, it gives you safer workouts, of course. But on the other side, the learning opportunities are a little bit compromised, because when you want to learn, you need to reflect. So what would be the difference with this session if I had only told you again what the zones were and, oh, that was good, that was not good? How would that have changed against you needing to give your opinion on what was going on?
It'll be like a different type of learning. This way we're able to apply it easier and see exactly where we went wrong.
And what you did right, too.
Yeah.
And I think the feedback, the immediate feedback is also important, because it was, like I said,
Yeah.
after the first talk, when we talked about the cycling, I already knew, you know, I started writing things on my paper because I knew it was going to be off on some of the rest of them. So it allows that process to happen in real time, with this kind of interaction. I found this far more helpful than the big group, because I think sometimes we get lost in that big group as well.
Yeah.
For me personally, I can only speak for myself. So this sort of focused, real-time, immediate feedback.
Yeah, so
helps
that was what I was really worried, you know, to have the 24-person group together and trying to do this would have been impossible. So that's why I split everybody in the 2 days, so that we would be able to have. So for me, this interaction was important, not just
Yeah.
that you present and
No.
you get feedback, but that you were able to give feedback to other participants too, because that helps you reflect on what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's also nice to see what else other people do.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a challenge for when you are able to coach somebody in the following couple of weeks, okay? And you can just like report to me on the WhatsApp what happened. So the particular challenge for this group will be to arrive to a session and allow the athletes to choose 3 things for themselves, okay? So you're still the coach, you're still going to plan the session and everything, you're still going to organize, but you will allow the athletes to choose 3 things in the session. Okay?
Not being such dictators.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be a democratic monarchy. You're going to listen to the parliament, all right?
Okay.
Very good. So, okay, guys, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to the next class in 10 minutes. Feel free to stay if you want to see the other classes. You can also leave if you have other things to do. Do not worry. I'm just going to be at this the whole day. Yeah, she had to go with an athlete that had an injury.
Okay.
Their arm or something. So yeah. Okay, but you guys can stay or go. It's okay. You can come back and visit later. It's no problem. I think I'm going to be on this the whole day. So
really?
Yeah. Feel free to come and go.
Are you videoing all of it?
Yes, I'm videoing all of it.
So we can watch them later?
Yes. I can give you the videos later. Okay. So I'm going to pause the recording now so that it won't be.
I'll start.
Perfect. So this is PATCO Level 1 2020 session, workout design session with Justin, Jose Rinkenbach, Canessa Almaraz, and Stacy Pearl. Okay, so you begin, Justin.
Okay. So for my
share your screen? Sorry, do you want to share your
screen? I'm actually on my phone.
Okay.
I'm at work and the computer I have doesn't have a microphone.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
No, don't worry. We will write down what you say and it's okay. So start with your swimming set.
Okay, so I started off with a warm-up. This is a set that my coach usually puts me through just to kind of get all of the different muscles and the body warmed up. So we take them through a 100 easy swim, which is zone 1. And then we do a 100 meter kick. 100 meters where you're just allowing them to do any drill that they want. 100 meters of pulling, and then a 100 meter easy swim, just to kind of complete the warm up. My athlete is an elite athlete. They're still a junior though. So I guess it's a slightly long warm up depending on who you speak to. But my key points for the session are focusing on some of the things that we would have focused on in class, which is the energy systems. You know, what is the relevance of those energy systems? You know, how does training relate to those? to those energy systems, and as well as the training zones. So we go into the main set, and we start with the zone 4 set. Is 6 times 200 at their, which would be like a threshold pace. So zone 4, followed by a zone 1 300 easy swim, just to allow some recovery, and then a zone 2/3 set, 2 times 500 at 60 to 65 strokes per minute, and then finished with a zone 2 to 3, 2 times 250 meter distance per stroke. And my coaching behaviors, I have, firstly, just gathering some general knowledge from the athlete on energy systems. Once they kind of provide, their knowledge, whether it's brief or, more extensive, then we can kind of begin explaining to them energy systems and build on what it was that they said. And then once that education is provided, then we can kind of tie that into the workout. So from the main set, I would have actually spoken about using 3 different zones, but usually not every swim workout is going to have you working in so many different zones. But if we are talking about the energy systems, I think it's good to kind of mix it up so that they can understand what it is that they're doing. What fuel sources are they burning the most at this particular intensity? What heart rate represents this particular zone? So next, we are encouraging the athlete to ask additional questions throughout the workout on the energy systems in the training zones. And then, as usual in a swim workout, because swimming is very technical, we're going to continuously provide technical feedback to them throughout the session, because running is technical and biking is a bit technical too, but I would say swimming is the most technical out of the 3. So I think when it comes to swimming, we need to make sure that they are performing the right technique, and that we need to continuously correct them on technique that isn't right, so that they don't build up any improper techniques in swimming. And so for cool down, I just have a zone 1 300 meter easy swim, focusing on form and not speed, because we don't want to elevate the heart rate at this point. We're trying to bring the heart rate back down at a safe rate, because we're concluding the session. So that is my swim workout.
Always forget to unmute, but it's very noisy here. Jose, what do you think about Justin's swim workout?
You're on mute, Jose. Jose, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, good.
What I was saying is that it's kind of difficult to remember everything.
Yeah.
It was too much for me to remember it. But what I really like it a lot was at the beginning, what I could catch is during the warm-up that he's changing every 100 meters the way in order to start swimming, changing the type of styles, and then making all these 6 200 meters. It's very good. I think I would put something very similar to someone that it's trying to increase the endurance, no? So I like the training a lot.
Okay, would you change anything about it?
Probably I would put some more speed during the drills. So change the pace. So some of them I would go with a C or even a B, and then go back to being in a zone, with a B. So changing the rhythm, because maintaining all the time the same pace, I mean, the body gets used to it.
Okay. I have a question, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
When you tell about right technique, wrong technique, give me one example of one thing that you would correct in technique, like a very punctual thing.
So from what we've learned, I would say that one thing that swimmers tend to wrong is their hand entry, which I think is an underrated part of the swim technique, because when we were when we were looking at the videos and it was talking about how the water can become very turbulent, which affects the swimmer's ability to swim through the water as smoothly. The hand entry is very important. So I would focus on hand entry to make sure that they're entering at the fingertips first, and then I think it's followed by the wrist.
Okay, very good.
So that's one thing I'd focus on.
Okay, so Ganesh, your swimming set.
Okay,
that's
let
really
me
good.
share
That's really good,
my
Justin.
my screen. I'm just a quick question, Claudia. After Justin's set, what I did was, for each type of set, I did different types of exercises, not just one training. Am I correct? That's the correct way of doing it?
Okay, so what we needed to do a set for each song, for each sport.
Okay.
But right now you just need to present one of the sets, because if
Okay,
not,
that's perfect.
you won't be
Okay.
able to do this in
No,
another.
I thought that it was the same session that has to involve the different all the sets. So
No,
I
no,
got
no,
a little
no,
bit
no.
confused here. Like,
No,
okay,
no,
no,
no.
okay,
No,
okay, I was confused. Okay,
only one training set for one session. So give us one of them.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So what I would
Let me know if
like
you
you
see my
to
screen.
give us is the set,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
and how you would structure the session and what your coach behavior would be. Okay. What would
Okay.
you do as a coach?
Okay, so my athlete is an age grouper with some background in sports. So my set would be focused on power because you need this to gain a little bit of extra seconds on when you start on the race, as well as at the end of the swimming leg. It's important to finish strong. So what I did here is 6 times 25 meters at full speed, plus 75 meters as a active recovery. As Jose just mentioned, it's important to vary the pace, but I would also include at the end of each set a 25-second like total stop. Why? So you are still recovering in the 75 meters after a full 25 meters strong length. You lower your heart rate and you're still working on the low zone. And then at 20-second for a full just recovery, catch your breath and hit again to a 10 RPE. And my mindset is, as a coach, would be that every 25 meters should be in the same time. It doesn't matter if it's the first one or the last one. That way you're respecting and that you can endure that power all the time, right? It's not just like a burst because it's the first one and you just go all full for it, and by the end of it you have nothing left on the gas tank. So that's why also I include the 75 meter to try to cool you down mentally as well. I think you're mute, Claudia, again.
Christine, what do you think about that set? Justin's also on mute. Okay, Stacy, what do you think about that set?
It seems good. I didn't hear anything about the purpose of the set.
Okay, yeah, she said it was going to be about power.
Power, okay.
Yeah.
And what's the coach behavior?
Yeah, that he didn't say.
The coach behavior, well, I think I covered when I said like asking from the athlete to always repeat on the same time, like the timing of all the 25 meters should be the same. So
Okay.
you are giving him like a power and also like a mental strength to distribute his energy correctly. Even though he's given 100%, he knows there's still more to come, right?
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's my coach behavior. And of course, asking him that those 75 meters after that 25 at full speed, he must respect the recovery zone, because
Right.
pretty much forget about the time there, just recover, and then we'll go for the time. So it's like a stretch and release situation with the coaching there.
Okay.
But of course, I think on my point of view, when you train power, you need like that extra push from your coach of, even though you believe you cannot do it, there's somebody telling that you can, and at the end, you've done it. It's no easy ride here.
Okay. What else can you tell us about this set? Stacy, do you like it?
I like that it's not a full length of power. I like that you have that cool down time and then you blast off. I think I'm going to try that.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Could somebody tell me what might be a problem with this set in an age group environment? Just Ganesh, what kind of problems would you expect to have?
In an age group,
Yeah, with
I think
the age groupers.
the main one would be not respecting the 75-meter active recovery pace.
Right.
No, that's good. That's good.
Okay, okay.
What kind of problems you might encounter if you do this set with an age grouper?
That he probably does not understand what RPEs are or something, maybe being more
No, that's
specific.
easy because you say
Okay.
go all out.
It's a bit demanding overall, I would say.
It's so for example, if
Okay.
your athlete is not very strong on the you need to make sure that the athlete is strong on the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that they will not have a problem, and that technique is kind of solid again.
Okay.
So that you will not have a problem with all out efforts. That's the only thing. I'm just being picky because you guys are doing a good job, okay?
No, perfect. No, this helps.
Good. Okay, so Stacy, tell us about your set.
Okay, I have mine written.
Okay, can you show it? Yes, because it's easier. Have you found that it's kind of difficult to follow if we're not looking at it?
Yes.
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 Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. So my coach is Maria Albergo, and I'm the assistant coach. We are doing this swim set at the National Stadium pool, which is a 50-meter pool. And the session is a swim test with master swimmers. So my master swimmers have been off doing absolutely nothing during COVID. And we are trying to see where they are in terms of where to start back in training. Their equipment is goggles, swimsuit, swim cap, hydration, and a swim watch. We are going to be doing a warm-up of 400-meter swim, easy, a 300-meter kick, 200-meter pull, and 100-meter drill, which is right side kick and left side kick. And this is to just get everything, them accustomed to being back in the pool, and getting their form correct, and warming up the muscles. The main set is going to be a 3x300-meter best pace, and they have to remain constant throughout the entire 300-meter with a 30-second rest in between. And they have to note the pace per set after every set. In terms of coach behavior, we need to establish that it's not a race. The pace cannot be affected regardless of whether it's the first 300-meter set or the last 300-meter set. They have to be trying to be consistent. The coach would observe the techniques during the sets as well. They would time the sets along with the athlete. And the cool down would be a 100-meter kick, any stroke, 100-meter pull, and 100-meter easy swim in zone 2. The main set is going to be in zone 3, 60 to 75% VO2 max, and the RPE would be 5, which is hard.
RPE would be 5, okay.
Right.
So Let's see, Justin, what do you think about this set?
I thought it was pretty good. One thing that stood out to me in terms of coach behavior on those 300s in particular, I would just make sure to let them know that, you know, like don't go out too hard at the beginning, because like for me personally with swimming is a little bit harder to gauge how fast you're going. Like with running and cycling, you can look at maybe at the watch and see maybe, you know, how fast it is you're going. But with swimming, it's kind of hard to feel how fast you're going. So I would just emphasize to them that you know, no, don't go out too hard. You know, try and keep the pace easy on the 300s, so that they don't end up blowing up. Especially if it's something that they're gonna have to do a number of times. You know, different sets of 300s.
Right.
Okay, very good. What other thing, Canes or Jose, would you think about having a test coming back from COVID?
Yeah, Jose, please.
No, please, Canes.
No, okay. No, on my point of view, it's just like, COVID is over and now you can swim. Having a test is probably, I mean, on my point of view, not the best idea. Probably I would have done like a couple sessions before, a couple weeks, just to get back in track. If not, according to my small expertise, is that they're gonna try to go on for it. Just say like, oh yeah, I used to be this extremely good swimmer, and then probably, as I understood, the warm up is a little bit. It's not complicated, but I think it's a little bit long before a test, especially coming from those circumstances. So maybe they're already like burnout, and then they try to go full gas into it, and then frustration comes, and this is not me. What is happening? And so probably starting with a test is not the best after COVID.
Yeah, I think I would.
So Jose, now you have the word.
Yeah, I think I would also give a couple of weeks before start testing. But the workout is really solid, and yeah, what you mentioned, Canes, regarding the warm up, I think that when you are going to have a test, it's good to have a good solid warm up. That's really good. But yeah, maybe wait just a little bit, because it's kind of aggressive to just go and test you. So a way to see how people are doing is probably ask them. Let them swim easy on the first couple 3 weeks, and then go for the test. But that's really good. So I would like you guys to tell me a little bit about coach behavior. So how could you be able to do all this, like ask the zones and everything, allowing the athletes to participate a little bit more on what they're doing? What do you think you could do? Like, instead of just telling the people what to do, what other thing do you think that you could do so that they would still have the learning experience, but have a little bit of more control on their workout, for example?
Well, I could ask them how they're feeling, what zone they think they could accomplish a consistent 300 meter in, and have them work out in that zone.
Okay, yeah, that's good. What else?
Just to add what she just said, what Stacy just said, I would say, with regards to like asking how they're feeling, like in the warm up, asking how they're feeling, so that you don't end up doing a hard workout that they may not be up for that day. Okay. Because if you're gonna do a lot of hard sets, it doesn't make sense to push that if they're already telling you in the warm up that you know they aren't really feeling great. Right.
Yeah. Especially with this whole issue of COVID, it's I don't know if you've seen, but it's really funny how some people really have needed to do like harder and stronger workouts, and other people just like really need to relax and take it easy because life has been tough. So it's important to ask the athletes,
right,
what they are ready for, what would they like to do, what they are aiming for, and just make sure that we're not just punishing them because we didn't see them for 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so who wants to give us, because of the time, one of you is going to give me a cycling workout, one of you a running, one cycling and one running, okay? And just try to be really brief in the explanation so that we can discuss, because I think the discussion is way more valuable than the actual sets, I think, okay? So Jose, give me your
I can
cycling.
go.
Yeah?
Let me go to see how I share.
Okay.
Claudia, sorry, I had a little bit internet problems. I only because of timing. One of us is gonna what? Sorry. Can you repeat
that you give one cycling, one running, and two persons will give cycling and two persons running, so that we can have time to discuss. Okay.
Okay.
Because I find the discussion really interesting. ¿Ya estás compartiendo? Ah, ya la podemos ver.
Yeah.
¿Sí?
Okay. So what I tried to do was to have here, I was training in Chapultepec Park where we usually train.
Okay.
This is a bike session. The objective is an L2 plus a VO2 max. This is an age grouper in the age of 20 years. It's gonna be lasting 60 minutes. We're gonna be doing 10 minutes warm up at 100 watts in zone 1. And here the first thing to catch up during the key points is for the athlete, given that this is a circuit, during the first couple of rides, to identify potential danger zones in order to avoid any accident, no? And just to warm up, there is no actual power that she needs to do. During the next 45 minutes, what I want to accomplish is to put the following. 2 minutes at 130 watts, this is zone 2. Then this is like a build-up. Then 2 minutes, zone at 150 watts, still zone 2, and an additional 2 minutes at zone 120. And then finally 2 minutes at 190. This is just to warm up a little bit more, but it's still not that hard. But then to repeat 3 times the following 10 times series. 40 seconds at 310 watts zone. This is a zone 5. And then 20 seconds at 120, 21, which is a zone 1. And then at the end, having a recovery time of 5 minutes at zone 120. And after that, a 5 minute for the recovery of at 100 watts in a zone 1. Okay, that would be it. And I mean, and what we're doing, the coach behavior is first to explain the overall objective of the session, and then mention the entire series that would be carried on, so the athlete knows what to expect during the training. And the coach will be reviewing how the athlete is working on changing gears in order to reach the cadence that is required. No? And at the end of the feedback is giving the athlete it's an example here on how to change gears in advance of a hill in order to be available to maintain the power. Now, because she tends to not to change the gears, but tends to change the gears once she is in the hill, not before coming to the hill. Okay, this is my example, Claudia.
Okay, so Stacy, do you want to talk about it?
Well, I have to tell you that cycling is my weakest in that I know least about cycling.
Okay.
I think that this would be a pretty intense workout for me. But I like that it has the different zones in there, multiple different zones. And that would help you to feel and know what the zones should feel like. The changing of the gears is very important, and that is actually one of the things that I personally have a problem with, changing the gears before you need to. So that's a very good thing to look out for. Would the recovery 5 minutes be enough to recover from such an intense session?
Yeah, you have a point there. I was reviewing the zones. If you remember, let me go here. I was seeing here, and it said that it had to be 60 minutes. That's why I ended up putting just 5 minutes.
Okay.
No, but you have a point. I will put another 10 minutes. No?
Canes? So,
Yeah, okay. No,
okay, so
go
what
ahead,
I'm
Claudia.
going to do with you guys is when I find a workout that is like very, very, very hard, I'm going to have you do it and let us know how that went. Okay, a ver, más, Canes.
Yeah, on this, no, no me lo cierres, Pablo.
Sorry.
It's about your.
Sorry.
Okay, so the main issues I see here is that I mean, it's good. You speak a lot of in power, but for this you would need a power meter on the bike, and sometimes power to keep it in the outdoors on the same level. It's a little bit complicated. It's too regular. It's easy on an indoor trainer, but not on the field, I think. So I would speak more in zones, which you also did. So that's good.
Okay.
And on the other hand, you mentioned Chapultepec Park, which I know, but that's a little bit of tricky from my part. There's a lot of up and downs, hills, downhills. So if you have like this consistency of after 3 minutes or 2 minutes, you have to go to this power. And if it's downhill, it's going to be really complicated to get to the heart rate and the power. Plus a downhill, it may be dangerous. So maybe I would use more the terrain in order to create the workout. So, okay, you push in the uphill and then recover on the downhill. On the flat, you push on a consistent zone or something like that. I would play more with the terrain, even if it's a cycling on a circuit. So I think that would be easier than trying to hit 40 seconds, 310 watts on a downhill, right? Maybe Claudia can second on that idea.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go with Canes. ¿Nos das uno de carrera? Can you give us a run workout?
Yeah, give me.
No, who hasn't? Yeah, everybody has given me a workout. Yes.
Yeah, everyone gave me one.
Okay, so yeah, let's try. Yeah, perfect. Canes, can you give us a run workout?
Yeah. On this one, it's for power I already did. Okay, so for endurance, give me just a second. I'll just share. Okay, so for running endurance, it's a 30 to 90 minutes set or training. So what I did is a set of 15 minutes run at 3 or 4, which is a moderate to hard and steady pace, and try to keep it, just maintain it for this whole 15 minutes. Then 3-minute recovery between sets of going 1 or 2 RPEs, lower the heart rate, and then hit again 15 minutes on a steady 3 to 4 RPE. And the point of this is feel the difference between pace and also stretching that aerobic area, right? The main issue, the main focus would be here that both sets of 15 minutes should be pretty much on the same heart rate zone and pace, running pace, in order for the athlete to be in the correct zone. If by the second set the pace lowers or the heart rate goes in a peak, it means that they went too hard on the first one. So some corrective action, and also some notes that this is the zone they should be keeping on a probably not a 10K, but well, yeah, probably a 10K or something, that on a race. It's pretty much a race pace. So it's stretching in the zone, and as well as knowing which zone are you working at, and don't trying to go more than your limits.
Okay, Justin, what do you think about this set?
Could you put that back for a second?
Yeah, sorry, wrong bottom there. Okay. Okay, so it was this one.
Okay.
Yeah, Justin?
I mean, to be honest, I don't see any issues. I don't see any issues with the workout itself. They seem to be, well, only thing I would say maybe is the, we'll see, it just depends. No, I don't really see any issues with the workout. I think these are pretty good workouts in terms of, yeah, in terms of how they line up with the zones and whatnot. I was gonna say that the lactic threshold zone, he has 4 times 800 and 3 times 400. I was gonna say that might be a bit too short, but then it still it really just varies depending on the athlete's capabilities and their pace. You know, just because the distance is short doesn't necessarily mean that you know, it isn't gonna be a certain difficulty for them. So
What do you think we could add to this workout to make it more fun?
Oh.
Yeah, if you're talking about you're doing this workout on a 10K race pace, or what things could you add to this workout to make it more fun?
I think for the zone 2-3, the endurance, there's something called a fartlek, which is like you can vary your pace a bit more on the easier stuff, just because the easy stuff can be boring for athletes. So adding in some variations of pace, no sprinting, but just some variations would be good.
That's exactly where I wanted to go. Like, what could be like a natural variation for the pace? What could you do for like a very, very easy natural variation of the pace?
Probably a ramp up.
No. Yeah, of course it could be, but what would be like the easiest, most natural way to make a variation on pace that would make it fun?
You could say like every time I see like a certain type of tree or something, you know, I change my pace for for 30 seconds or something like that, you know. Yeah.
And another one, you almost mentioned it on the bike as a problem on the bike to keep the pace on Jose Pablo's workout. Yeah.
You do it sometimes that you run and then you close your eyes a little bit and then you run again and you close your eyes, or
no. What if, for example, you use like a different terrain?
Rain.
Like you do it on the woods, or you do it on
okay.
downhill, or you do it on anywhere where the terrain will give you some variation that will make you work on the pace that you're doing on holding it. Whoa. On holding it and on having some changes that are enforced and that will most possibly happen in a lot of races.
Okay.
So one way to do this would be to make changes on the terrain.
Okay.
I would like to know from all of you guys so there's the issue. Most of you are coached online. I don't know, from at least the people from Mexico, because of the complications with going places, right? So you usually receive your online program and you need to do it. And that gives us a very dictatorial coach. Okay, I know that you do that because, I work with you and I know that's what we have to do. But if you wanted to be with these same sets that are very well planned and these coaches in a different coach behavior where you are not so dictatorial, but you allow the athletes to decide a little bit more on their workouts, how could you go about that? What could you do? Do you understand a bit? So for example, in this session, I go and tell you, you need to do a set for each session, and that's very dictatorial and autocratic, okay? I told you what to do. Then we come on the session, and what I could do is just review your work and say, okay, Canes, this is right, this is wrong, you need to do this here, and you need to do that here. And this one, what were you thinking? No.
Okay. It has happened before, yeah.
But I can also say, okay, this is a really good workout. Jose, what do you think he was going after in this set? Or do you like this set? Or how would you, or Ganesh, what do you think about Jose's set? And then you start participating. This is just like the really, really entry level of giving a little bit of participation to everybody else. And then if I wanted to go further with this on the next class, I would say, okay, Stacy, you direct this learning session and you need to start moderating and facilitating how people work in this. And this way you will also learn a little bit more. So as coaches, how would you help your athletes decide a little bit on their training so that they learn and understand a bit more on their training?
Probably what I will do is to make an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the training has to be dictatorial, and 20% of the training I could be as flexible with the student or the athlete as he wants. And each time he wants to assign the 20% for each session, I mean, I could explain him before the session what I try to reach for that session. So I could give him examples on how we can do it to reach with the 20% he's able. So I could put him like a menu and he can choose from that menu for the rest of the 20%. No?
That's a good idea. That's actually a good idea. That's good. What else do you think you could do? Justin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I just was going to say that I think the easy workouts are a good opportunity for some like leniency with the workouts, because if you just like, let's say if you have an easy bike day after, you know, like a hard run the night before, you could kind of just say, okay, it's like an unstructured, you know, choice workout, like, you know, it's up to you. And that way, if the athlete, you know, if they go too hard on the workout, then they learn that, you know, after a hard day, it's very important to rest.
Yeah, and that's important. I think that's really good also. I actually like that.
Yeah.
Because then if they go too hard on recovery day, they will soon learn that you shouldn't go too hard on recovery day.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. What else do you think that you can do? Ganesh, Stacy?
I like the idea of having the athletes choose one of the workouts. So if you see the VO2 max type of workout, have them structure the workout themselves and see if they really reach that VO2 max type of workout. And it will let you know that they have an understanding of what that is.
Okay, so for example, Justin, what you were saying about asking the athletes about their training zone and such, if you allow them to plan for a workout, then a way to have feedback is to see if when they plan for a workout on a specific training zone, they are actually understanding what they are doing. So that's really good. And that would help with the type of feedback that you want to receive also.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have any other thoughts about this?
Just to add a little, yeah, I think the like self-awareness of how a training goes. I mean, not everybody wants to learn how to coach or train someone else, but I think everybody has like a sports watch or a Garmin device, and they have like these metrics, right? Heart rate, cadence. So maybe also play with that, like, oh, what happens if I bring my cadence up, and then how does that affect my heart rate while I'm running, or the pace overall, or why, even though I was on a slower pace, why was my heart rate up? So probably that's because I was tired from previous sets or from the day before. So also know it, that way they can know themselves, be data driven.
Okay.
And they use the tools.
All the nice toys, but you can do a lot if you do not have the nice toys. Remember that we are working on development. Yeah, this course is directed for places on development. So sometimes you will not have many times you will not have the nice toys, but you still need to get the information. Okay? So
Okay.
now what I
So-
would like, see, Dima?
Yeah, no, I mean, if not with toys, also like the perceived effort, like even though they do not know the zones, it's just like, oh, I did the same thing 10K on the same route that I did last weekend, but this time I was more tired. Why? Oh, because this week I went out for dinner twice and I slept not good and I had a lot of homework. And then that way they can also see what external factors affect your fitness for that specific day, right? Yeah, or your training.
And then you can start having, be more careful with your recovery, right? And you can become more careful with it. Okay, so now what I would like to know about you guys is, did you enjoy this session?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was this session what you expected?
Yeah.
It was better. Yeah, for me it was better.
What were you expecting?
No, probably a little bit more. I think more like it's good. It's okay. It's good or it's not good, right? Something like that. Instead of like discussing and seeing how I don't know. Stacy is not a pro in cycling, but she apparently is a good swimmer because she gave us like a really good workout and structure for swimming. So it's good because I suffered planning the swimming sessions.
Yeah.
Even though I like swimming, I have never like planned before a swimming session. So I think it was better because yeah, you hear different points of views and you start seeing things that I did not consider, like the terrain when I commented on Jose's training, right? So all these factors that aren't just not paper and pencil, it's a lot of things that are involved in the training session.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, one of the things that you don't usually think about, and you should as a coach, is that warm up and cool down sessions. It's not just the meat of the matter. It's not just the purpose of the session, but you have to make sure that the athlete is prepared with the warm up for that session, and that they have recovered and they've stretched and all of that after. You know, so if you want to increase VO2 max, that's one thing, but you have to make sure that you safely get into it and then safely come out of it, which is before thinking of coaching wasn't something that I paid enough attention to as an amateur athlete for myself.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So now you will need to remember about it and take it into account and be serious about it. Jose, ¿ibas a decir algo?
No, I really enjoyed the session. The only thing, I don't know if we're going to be seeing this in the course or probably in another one, is how do we put all the different sessions into a monthly or bi-monthly program? Because at the end, what I still don't understand is how many times do we have to repeat a power session or an endurance session so we actually gain the endurance, so we actually gain the power, so we actually gain the VO max? Or how do we factor in when someone is sick or when someone is overtrained? Those type of things that makes you change the daily programming, the daily session, So I don't know if the people didn't sleep very well, or do I change the session, or okay, he didn't sleep that well, but he can do it,
sometimes also. So the idea for this course, because this is a level 1 course, okay, and I hope that by now you have seen that being a coach is not like a 2-day learning experience. It's a lot of background behind planning a workout, but the main idea would be able to at least plan a good week of workouts, okay? But we cannot plan a good week of workouts if we do not learn to reflect on the individual workouts that we are planning. So I'm sure that for everybody it was a bit difficult to do this task. And then, because we were also worried that, is it going to be right? Is it going to be wrong? Let me tell you a secret. It's very difficult as a coach to come and say, oh, no, that's wrong. Okay, because everybody has their own point of view, but we do want to respect and understand the training zones, the recovery times, and their training intensity. That's important. So with this, we started with a really good first exercise that brought you to reflect on what we are doing. And for me, that was the main objective of this session, is to have you write and think, and then reflect on it and see other points of view. Do you think that the objective was met?
Definitely, yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to like see the global of this thing, then you can also see that this is a way of teaching. I could have just like video recorded this session and gave you a nice PowerPoint, but I am too lazy and I expect you to work. No, but it's important that you reflect, okay? So this is another way of teaching. So what I'm going to give you as a challenge, just do it during this month, have a workout with somebody and either try giving them a 20% of choosing, or at some point, let them decide on part of their training session, okay? Be creative with it and just report it on the WhatsApp group, what you did to let the athletes decide on a training session. All right?
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, thanks to all of you. And this
Claudia.
was a really good session. This was a really good session. Let me take a picture of it, just so that I can put it on Instagram. If you don't want to be on Instagram, let me know and I won't put you on Instagram, okay? But if you have problems with your job or something, Justin, just let me know.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so see you. I'm going to be doing this the whole day. We will just be resting from 1 to 4. So if at some point you want to come and watch another session, it's perfect, okay? I will be happy to have you watching how the other sessions go, all right?
Okay.
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 Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Thank you